So, a project is successful when the customer's happy, the developers are happy, and everyone feels good about the work. In software engineering terms, a successful project is one that's delivered on time, on budget, and meets its specifications. But as you probably guessed, success doesn't happen nearly as often as we'd like. So, for the rest of this lecture, I'll be pointing to some spectacular failures and some standout successes that highlight the lessons that you need to know. These are case studies that I've linked to, written as easy-to-read articles that I've linked in this video and posted in my courses. So look for them there and learn what exactly were the winning or losing practices that made a difference to their stories. And what can you learn from them to have a successful project in this class? So, for example, there's the case of the Denver International Airport baggage system in the 1990s. It was years late, hundreds of millions of dollars over budget, and plagued with breakdowns. So you might want to take a look at that and what caused that. Or you can look at, in contrast, Netflix's smooth transition from DVDs to streaming, which worked because they phased it in carefully and they spent a lot of time listening to customers and built technology in manageable steps. So that gap between failures and successes is exactly what researchers have been trying to understand, which brings us to one of the most cited studies in the field. So back in 1994, the Standish Group published a now famous chaos report and analyzed over 3,000 IT projects to find the main causes of failure. Their top findings was lack of user input, incomplete requirements, changing requirements, lack of executive support, technical issues, and unrealistic expectations or timeliness. So we've seen these traps in high-profile industry stories with stuff like the healthcare.gov's disastrous 2013 launch, which failed due to unclear requirements, poor integration testing, and unrealistic deadlines. On the other hand, the London 2012 Olympics ticketing platform handled millions of requests without a major outage because they stressed testing early and refined their requirements and had executive backing to fix problems before they launched. So we've seen the exact same issues right here in this course. When students of this course gave a end of project post-mortem report, they described similar problems. So they had unclear requirements, surprises late in the project, too many competing priorities, trouble with external vendors, and challenges with new technology. So the overlap is clear. Whether in industry or in class, the same root causes get in the way. And you can see the real same dynamic in smaller scale, real-world efforts. A Kickstarter tech gadget that shipped late and under-delivered, like the Coolest Cooler product, which suffered from shifting priorities and over-promised features, is a classic example. But by contrast, the Raspberry Pi launched with a tight, well-defined scope and realistic timelines, which led to both commercial and educational success. And all this leads to the obvious question: what can we do differently? So in 2001, several leading software developers met in Utah, of all places, and created this thing called the Agile Manifesto. Its 4 core values emphasize people, working solutions, collaboration, and flexibility over rigid processes, heavy documentation, contracts, and fixed plans. The goal wasn't to eliminate planning or documentation, it was to keep them in balance with flexibility and customer involvement. And this mindset is played out in clear success stories, like Spotify's Squad model, which allows small autonomous teams to adapt quickly without having to wait for lengthy sign-offs, enabling them to ship updates fast. But contrast that to Nokia's smartphone division in the mid-2000s, which clung to rigid processes and lost its lead to agile competitors. And that brings us to you, because knowing these problems exist is one thing, but avoiding them takes real deliberate effort. So how can you use this knowledge to improve your project's odds of success? You need to understand all the requirements and everything they imply before you start. You need to identify complex or uncertain parts of the project early and tackle them first. You need to know your team's capabilities and be realistic about what you can deliver and how to handle changes in a thoughtful, controlled way. You'll get tips throughout this course, but ultimately, avoiding these common pitfalls is your responsibility.